Jai Maa Kamakhya, Jai Bhairava, Jai Matara. So today I will be speaking on a rare form of Devi. Uh, Many people had sent emails asking about making a video on this form. A lot of us know of her. She's extremely popular in uh, South India, especially South India. These days, it's also popular in North, little some places, not everywhere. And she's specifically known for removing of negatives. So I'm talking of Devi Pratyangira, who is also known as the Atharvan Bhadrakali. Many of us already are aware of Pratyangira, at least the name, if not the methods of sadhana. So before I go into any kind of practice related to Pratyangira, I will just tell you a bit about how her origination happens and the stories associated. Because as you read the stories, as you contemplate on the stories related to each of the divine beings that are mentioned in the texts, it's not just about reading them once, but you read them and then you contemplate on them. And the more you contemplate, the more you meditate, it reveals some nature, some aspect of that, some tattva of that being. And for an upasaka, from an upasaka's point of view, that is extremely important. This is why it's a method of transmission of knowledge by which there is a story associated with that divine entity and being, which is mentioned in the texts, the Puranas or the Tantras or the Agamas. And as you contemplate on that, along with doing the practice, it also helps you integrate that specific nature, that tattva of the deity, and maybe not in day one, but over time, um, as time goes by, as the practice becomes more deeper and mature, one realizes that um, what exactly is the core essence of that deity. So Pratyangira is also known as Atharvan Bhadrakali, and she has a link to the Atharva Vedas. There are many different stories and scholarly interpretations that come to us. One of the interpretations is that there were two rishis. One was Angirasa and another was Pratyangirasa, who had contemplated on finding a specific form of Devi who is so fierce that she can destroy any kind of negatives. So, in order to do that, they went deep into a meditation on Lalita Mahatripura Sundari until they found that specific space. They reached an area where uh, of intense darkness, of ghora tamas, and inside that there was present one divine Shakti whose name was actually, she did not have a name. So, in honor of the two rishis who found her, she was called as Pratyangira. That is one of the interpretations that we have. There's another interpretation that says that Prati means reverse and Angira, Pratyangira means basically somebody, a force that can reverse any kind of prayogas or any kind of attacks or any kind of mantras. So anything that has been done can be turned back, uh, reversed completely by application of the Vidya of Pratyangira. This is one of the key aspects. Uh, Another thing is Angirasa. Uh, in fact, subtexts also mention that the Atharva Veda was originally, in some places, referred to as the Atharva Angirasa Veda. So basically, it was a combination of the Vidyas of some rishi named Atharvan along with Angirasa, and these two together created that very powerful text, which later on got added into the original three Vedas and became the fourth Veda. Specifically, Atharva Veda has a link to the practice of prayogas and tantras and kritas. Uh, some of the texts linked to Atharva Veda mention a form of Pratyangira who has 2000 arms, whose intense amount of furious weapons are present in each of her arms, and she enters into a cremation ground and her invocation is done specifically. She is referred to as the Mahakritya. She is considered as um, a form that is invoked specifically for the destruction of enemies and the destruction of the psychic mantras or the astra mantras that are used by an enemy. Her prayogas were intended for kings and other powerful people in order to ensure that for the protection of a race or the protection of a group of people or a community is done by her practices. Over time, Pratyangira also became quite common in the tantras, where we have uh, the Varahi Tantra mentioning Pratyangira. We have the Devi Purana also mentioning uh, pujas and paddhatis of upasana related to Pratyangira. She is in fact identified with two other forms of the Divine Mother. One is Siddhi Lakshmi, who is a very intense, very rare form. Her temple is there in Nepal. Uh, Siddhi Lakshmi is the same as Pratyangira, it's just that the approach is to a different path of Tantra. And also, who is known as Purna Chandi. So we already know of Chandi, which is the Navana Chandi, whom we worship with various mantras. And then there's a higher krama of Chandi, which is Purna Chandi. So these are all same forms, one single Devi Swarupa, who's approached through different Tantra paths, and therefore her name changes, her attributes change a bit, but the essential extreme form of her nature remains the same, whether it's Siddhi Lakshmi or Pratyangira or Purna Chandi. We also have the Puranic story that is quite popular, that Lord Narasimha, after destruction of the Asuras, was in a very fierce mood, and his anger could not be calmed down. This story actually does not come from the Vaishnava Puranas. I think it comes from the Shaiva Puranas. And therefore, there is the presence of Lord Shiva as Sarveshwara, who comes in order to fight that Ugra Sarupa of Narasimha, in order to calm him down. And during that battle, Narasimha takes the form of the Gandhavirunda Swarupa, Ashtamukha Gandhavirunda, and it is then that from the some texts mention from the third eye of Sarveshwara, while some texts mention from the wings of Sarveshwara, emerges Pratyangira, who is able to subdue the two warring portions of two warring divine entities of Narasimha and Sarveshwara, and calms everything down. So that is how Pratyangira comes. In fact, it's very interesting to note that Pratyangira is considered as one of the Shaktis that goes along with Sarveshwara Bhairava, the other being Shulini Durga. In another krama, Sarveshwara Bhairava also has the Shakti of Durga and Kali, very simplified form. So the Kali Swarupa that is mentioned with Sarveshwara, her extreme form is Pratyangira. We have seen the iconography of Pratyangira. She has the face of a lion and she rides a chariot which is pulled by lions. And sometimes she has four arms, sometimes she has more arms. As I mentioned, there are prayogas mentioning Pratyangira having 2000 arms also in some rare texts. I don't think those prayogas happen today or anybody has the capacity to do that. But Pratyangira is a very, very intense form of the Divine Mother. Her special capability is destruction of Abhichara. Any form of Abhichara, using whatever method has been done, whichever mantras of whichever deity in the world, does not matter. Whether it's a smashanic prayoga, whether it's a prayoga using specific clothes or elements of the body, or for example hair or some used item of an individual, doesn't matter. When Pratyangira sadhanas are done by a competent individual, and this is very important, the higher ranges, or in fact the middle and the higher ranges of Pratyangira sadhana cannot be randomly done by anybody. It needs mentoring and guidance apart from Diksha. Just Diksha is not enough. Mentoring is important because she is extremely fierce. Her mantras are so intense that if somebody keeps doing some of her higher mantras regularly, it generates extreme amount of heat in the mind and the body, and it takes some time to adjust oneself to that kind of intense force. So one needs other balancing elements as well. On the other hand, when Bhairava sadhana is done to a very great extreme form, of great amount of power is generated through Bhairava upasana over periods of time, long periods of time, then as we know that in the Bhairava Krama, we have Mahakal Bhairava as the final authority of the ultimate Swarupa of Bhairava. But there is also Sarbeshwara Bhairava, who is the Pakshi Raja, as he is called. And his mention we find even in the Kalika Purana as well as other Shaiva texts, who fights this grand battle with the fierce form of Narasimha, Ashtamukha Gandhavarunda Narasimha. This Sarveshwara Bhairava is not an ordinary Swarupa of Bhairava, because ordinary Bhairava, whether it's Kala Bhairava, Mahakal Bhairava, will also take you to deep spiritual essence. But the first nature of Sarveshwara Bhairava is like a weapon. He's like an Astra Vidya. It's almost like an Astra Vidya of Bhairava. Again, it has its own rules and niyamas of how to do if one only worships Sarveshwara. But the reason I mention is that Saraveshwara is the Purusha Tattva that is linked to Pratyangira. So when Pratyangira sadhanas are done at a very extreme level, or if one does a lot of Bhairava sadhana, very extreme Bhairava sadhana, and by this I don't mean only the Nama mantra, but higher mantras of Kala Bhairava and Mahakal Bhairava, and multiple rounds of Purushcharana are done. For over years it is done. Both the Naimittika pujas are done, apart from the Nitya pujas, along with multiple Purushcharana in different places are done, various Prayogas are done. Then eventually the energy of Sarveshwara can get activated automatically. And once he gets activated, Pratyangira becomes the very natural corresponding Shakti that can contain or that resonates with the power of Sarveshwara Bhairava. Pratyangira, as we all know, is also used. Pratyangira homas and Pratyangira sadhanas are used very much across India, especially in South. Again, these days also in North, as a means of counteracting any kind of prayoga. So when prayogas are done, generally, and I'm mentioning this for the sake of completeness and theory, it doesn't mean that you have to do this or anybody should actually do this, because each of these prayogas have also karmic repercussions. Without knowing how to handle all those, what to do, what not to do, actually doing a prayoga is much easy. What is far more difficult is having the understanding that when to do, which one to do, how much to do, and what not to do. That requires a greater guidance from a higher intelligence. And those who don't have that and enter into prayogas eventually always end up falling badly, because prayogas are risky. Prayogas are like a weapon. So if the weapon doesn't act on the object, it can come back and hit you also. So that caution is needed. Anyway, but people being people, so when they get very agitated emotionally and otherwise, and they think that they need to, they're driven by a sense of anger or animosity or anything, and they do prayogas when other people, different kinds of tantric mantras are applied, and mantras of various deities are applied. So there is a krama of these prayogas one can do using various deities. You can do prayoga through Bhairava mantras, through Chandi mantras, through Kali mantras, through Baglamukhi mantras, Chinnamasta mantras. All these are there. Prayogas are very much possible. Among these, by and large, the most popular form of prayogas happen through Bhairava mantras and Baglamukhi mantras. Baglamukhi is by far the most popular deity when it comes to prayogas, and her ability to do stambhana is absolutely remarkable feature of the remarkable attribute of Maa Baglamukhi sadhana, which is why there are a lot of tantrics, a lot of people who do pujas, or general people who are suffering from some kind of problems or shatru vada, etc., use the Baglamukhi Vidya in order to cut down on the threat from enemies as well as attack those who are shatrus. Now, if a Baglamukhi Prayoga has been done on somebody, or suppose there is a curse in some family, and that could be from anything, whether it's a curse from the Pitrus, whether it's a curse from a deity, whether it's a curse from a spirit, whether it's a curse from a human being, any type of curse is there ever on an individual or a family, or a Baglamukhi Prayoga or a Kali Prayoga or a Kal Bhairava Prayoga has been done. The way to reverse this is via the sadhana of Pratyangira. Pratyangira is the one form of the Divine Mother. She is extremely intense. I mean, I was having a discussion on Pratyangira with another great Upasaka, and he made a very beautiful comment that Pratyangira is fundamentally has no name. She's almost Shunya. She is the Swarupa of Shunya, and that is why she has no name. And the name Pratyangira comes from the two rishis who discovered her. It's like a blessing she gave to them that they become immortal, and that is why she took upon herself the name of the two rishis. So she has the power of the absolute void inside her, and the void has no form, no name. Something that has no form, no name can digest anything. That is the beauty of Pratyangira. She can digest any mantra, any tantra, anywhere, and not only digest that, neutralize it, and send it back to the person who has done the prayoga. That is the extreme amount of power that is contained within the Vidya of Pratyangira, which is why very interestingly, in some Purana, I think it's one version of the Agni Purana, actually mentions Pratyangira not as a Devi but as a yantra, which is to be drawn for various kinds of applications and prayogas. So Pratyangira effectively, Devi Pratyangira effectively is like a weapon, an astra. When she is properly invoked and a sadhana is done, she is like an astra. But as I mentioned, Astra Upasana, Astra Vidya Upasana is the toughest in Tantra Sadhana among all Upasanas, because it's like a double-edged sword. It can and very often does affect the Upasaka just as much as it can affect the target of the Astra Prayoga. So Astra Upasana requires a certain kind of steadiness and the ability to digest a little bit of pain, and of course correct guidance. Apart from the fact that astras need first the upasana of the pradhana devata, whether it's Kali, whether it's Tara, or whether it's Bhaglamakhi or Kala Bhairava or Shiva, or even Kartikeya, if you're doing the mantras of the veil, Astra mantras, for example. So that, because it is the devata who can handle the astra. Similarly, the extreme form of the Pratyangira mantras, and there are higher and higher kramas of mantras. I've seen multiple places using different types of Pratyangira mantras. All of them are effective. Basically, each one uses what works best for them. While Pratyangira mantras are used, they are almost like an astra. In order to safely use the Pratyangira mantras, they are always combined along with another Devi or Devata mantras, fierce protective form of Devi or Devata. So therefore we have Kali Pratyangira, we have Bagala Pratyangira, we have Tara Pratyangira, we have Kala Bhairava Pratyangira, we have Hanumanta Pratyangira. All these Vidyas are there. Though the Hanuman Pratyangira Vidya I have never seen myself, but I have heard from very reliable people that it exists among certain kulas and sampradayas. Anyway, so Pratyangira mantras are like couched or covered by the Vidyas of Kali, Tara, Bagala, etc., and then used so that this raw, extreme amount of occult force that she generates when her blessing comes to a particular place or she is invoked in a particular mantra or sadhana is rightly channelized into the correct form so that the result comes without causing damage and danger to the upasaka or the person doing it. So this is the essence of the Pratyangira Vidya. And again, for the sake of completion, suppose somebody has applied a Pratyangira Prayoga on another person. In order to reverse that, one will have to do what is called the Viparita Pratyangira Sadhana. Anyway, without going more details into all this theory portion, here is a simple sadhana of Pratyangira Devi. While complicated mantras are not to be done without guidance, because as I mentioned, extreme amount of heat is generated. For example, certain mantras of Pratyangira are so intense that once sadhana is done up to a particular point, then one can only do those mantras on specific tithis and days. One cannot even chant them every day because the heat generated is so intense that it becomes difficult to do any other sadhana or activity for that matter when that type of mantra sadhana of Pratyangira is done. So Pratyangira Vidya is to be used in the higher form. When I say Vidya, I mean the mantra krama of Pratyangira, because each Devi is finally the mantra. As the mantra changes, the urja of that particular form that is accessible to the Upasaka also changes. Now, suppose somebody feels that they are the subject of intense abhichara and they're convinced about it, and there are multiple signs, and it is not just a delusional mindset, because a lot of people actually think that abhichara is happening on them is actually not abhichara, but very simply graha doshas or just some kind of smaller impact here and there which will pass, but it is not necessarily abhichara. So one is absolutely sanguine and certain that there is an abhicharic kriya that has happened, and very powerful abhicharic kriya, and all other means of removing it has failed. Then and only then one can try this particular sadhana that I'm mentioning now. This is not a normal sadhana for just getting the grace of Pratyangira, or if somebody is keen to do Pratyangira sadhanas, then in that case my advice would be to find an appropriate mentor and take the upadesham of how to do Pratyangira sadhana. However, this that I'm revealing is only in the extreme case that you feel that you have been a subject of extreme malefic attacks, spiritual attacks. So in that case, start this sadhana from a Tuesday. If you can start either Shukla Baksha or Krishna Baksha, does not matter, but it has to be a Tuesday, or maybe a Saturday also is fine, but Tuesday is very good. So light one diya, ensure that the wick of the diya is made red with sindoor, kumkum. Oil has to be used. It should burn sufficiently till the end of the sadhana. In that oil, you can add too long, a little bit of white or yellow sarso, and the wick has to be red, as I mentioned. Then just bow down to Pratyangira with a very simple Nama mantra of Pratyangira. Om Rim Maa Pratyangira Divvai Nama. Very simple Nama mantra with a Maya Vija included. The Maya Vija is one of the safest Vijas to use in Tantra. It does not cause any kind of reactions anywhere at all, except for the fact that as you use the Maya Vija, it gives you more knowledge of that particular form. So do one mala of this mantra, Om Rim Pratyangira Divvai Nama, and then chant the Ashtottarnama of Pratyangira, which will be mentioned in the description of the video, 9 times, one after the other, 9 times. And then in the same asana, chant the Kal Bhairava Ashtakam 8 times. So 9 times the Ashtottarnama of Pratyangira, then 8 times the Kal Bhairava Ashtakam, and you finish the Kal Bhairava Ashtakam with at least 1 or 3 malas of Om Bhairavaya Namah. Once you are done this complete set, then meditate and tell Maa Pratyangira that so and so things are affecting you. There's an Abhichara Kriya that has happened, and may her blessings, her intense and furious power protect you, destroy that Abhichara, and sends it back to whosoever has done that. This sadhana has to continue depending on the intensity of the Abhichara, but as a general thumb rule, it's good to continue this for a period of 48 days. Every day it has to be done, which means that in between there will also be a Amavasya Tithi if you are doing it for 48 days. On the Amavasya Tithi, you may do this a little bit more. Instead of 9 times, you can do it 18 times, and instead of 8 times the Kalbhairava Ashtakam, you may even chant it 24 times. But other things remain same. There has to be a diya continuously burning with oil, and the wick of the diya should be red in color. There should be 2 long inside the diya and some yellow mustard पीली सरसों जो हम लोग बोलते हैं. Agarbatti, of course, has to be there. This is basic. Any puja you do without agarbatti is not fully or that intensely effective. Along with it, on Amavasya Tithi, before you start doing this, keep 9 lemons in front. 9 lemons. Okay? And tell Devi Pratyangira that these are for her. And once you complete the whole set, then cut those 9 lemons with a fresh knife. It's like giving a bali. Okay? And imagine that whatever difficulties are there in your life, may those be completely destroyed by the blessings of Devi Pratyangira and Kala Bhairava. And after that, later on, these lemons, once you cut these 9 lemons, so there will be 18 pieces. On each of these 18 pieces, put one piece of kapoor, camphor, and light them. So it's like an arati that you're doing. And meditate on Pratyangira, meditate on Kala Bhairava, on Bhagavan Kala Bhairava and Devi Pratyangira, and tell them that let all the difficulties and the Abhichara which you are facing or curses that you are facing, may those be removed. May you be shown the right way to remove those things. That is also important because various people have different types of karmas. Sometimes the karma that has resulted in the negative condition or being the victim of an attack of abhichara or a curse may be very intense. So it is possible that just this sadhana may not be enough. In that case, at least the divine forces will tell you that what needs to be done. And once the full period is over, go to any Shiva temple, do a Abhishekam, Rudra Abhishekam. If you cannot do a Rudra Abhishekam, at least offer some water and Belpatra to Shiva, and to any Pratyangira temple or Kali temple or Durga temple or Tara temple, offer at least a coconut, one diya and agarbatti, and mention that you have done the Pratyangira sadhana to the best of your ability, and may you be blessed and may your sufferings come to an end. Again, repeating once again, this sadhana is only when you think that you are a victim of very strong abhichara that has happened. It is not a normal sadhana for trying casually just to see, what happens. This is only for those people, and there are quite a few who keep writing. So these days I don't deal with any individual consultations at all. Those have been stopped for quite some time because all my time and energy is devoted to creation of the Bhairava temples and whatever processes needs to be done for that. However, if somebody thinks that they have tried every kind of remedy and it has not worked for the sake of removing avichara, then they can try this one. And hopefully there will be some relief that you will find. On the other hand, though, if there are avichara kriyas, remember this, the moment you start trying to remove them, they will start acting up initially. So you have to be very steady in your heart and steady in your sankalpa and your resolve that come what may, you will go through it till the end. And that is how these things can be neutralized and their effects reduced or removed. Jai Maa Kamakhya, Jai Maa Tara, Jai Bhairava.